From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
We've got to put America on the right track by winning back the White House, taking the Senate, and keeping the House in Republican hands. We need your help in this task. America's future is literally at stake. Let's get this done.
Boss Rove, inside Karl Rove's secret kingdom of power. We'll spend the hour with author Craig Unger examining the return of Karl Rove, the man who masterminded the rise of George W. Bush from governor of Texas to the presidency, who advised Bush during 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, who some claim helped seize the 2004 election for Bush, and who was at the center of 2 of the biggest scandals of the Bush administration, the Valerie Plame affair and the U.S. attorney scandal. Today, how Karl Rove went from almost indicted to becoming the most powerful political operative in America. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Republican Congressmember Todd Akin has refused to drop out of Missouri's Senate race, defying calls from leaders of his own party who say he could hurt Republican chances this November. Akin sparked a national controversy over the weekend after he told an interviewer that women are somehow capable of blocking pregnancy during what he called a legitimate rape. Republicans from presidential candidate Mitt Romney to Karl Rove to Senate leaders urged Akin to withdraw before a Tuesday deadline for Missouri candidates. But on Tuesday, Akin told radio host and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee he plans to continue his bid.
Certainly, the institutional side of the party is very lined up. I do receive continuing calls from other congressmen and people who are very supportive of what we're trying to do. And I guess my question is there a matter of some justice here? That I misspoke one word in one sentence in one day, and all of a sudden, overnight, everybody decides, well, Akin can't possibly win. Well, I don't agree with that. The Americans that I know, the people I know in Missouri, when you make a mistake, nobody expects us to get every word perfectly. And you tell them you're sorry, you look them in the eye and say, I didn't mean to hurt anybody, I really didn't. And yet, on the other hand, there's a cause here. There's a cause about the very heart of what America is.
In a message posted to his Twitter account Tuesday night, Akin told supporters, quote, donations are pouring in. Thank you for standing up against the liberal elite. Despite calls from 2 top Republicans for Akin to drop out, the party has further entrenched its extreme stance on abortion in a vote on its platform for next week's convention in Tampa. On Tuesday, the Republican Platform Committee approved language backing a constitutional ban on abortion without exception for rape or incest. The platform declares, quote, the unborn child has a fundamental individual right to life which cannot be infringed. A federal appeals court has overturned the Environmental Protection Agency's effort to reduce emissions of dangerous chemicals from coal-burning power plants. On Tuesday, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit struck down the EPA's cross-state air pollution rule, which would have sharply limited emissions of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide at plants in 28 states. The EPA has estimated the rules could save up to 34,000 lives per year and result in tens of billions of dollars in health benefits. But after a major push by utilities and corporate groups, the appeals court ruled in a 2-to-1 decision the regulations exceed the EPA's authority. In a statement, the Natural Resources Defense Council urged the EPA to appeal the ruling, saying, quote, this decision allows harmful power plant air pollution to continue to aggravate major health problems and foul up our air. This is a loss for all of us, but especially for those living downwind from major polluters. In Afghanistan, an aircraft used by the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Martin Dempsey, was damaged Tuesday when militants fired on a U.S. base. A NATO spokesperson said Dempsey was not on board when the attack took place.
Last night, 2 rounds hit Bagram airfields, and actually they caused damage to an ISAF helicopter and the C-17 transport airplane of General Dempsey. He was already in his room by that time, so he was not affected at all. Some of the shrapnels of those rounds damaged actually also the C-17 of General Dempsey, so he took another C-17 in order to continue his trip then out of Afghanistan.
Dempsey was in Afghanistan for talks following a recent spate of attacks on NATO soldiers by Afghan troops. Shortly after the attack, he left Afghanistan on a different aircraft. At least 8 people have reportedly been killed and 75 wounded after fighting broke out in the Lebanese city of Tripoli between groups with opposing views of the conflict in Syria. Violence erupted Monday night between Sunnis in Tripoli, who oppose the Syrian regime, and Alawites loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, activists in Syria say government troops backed by tanks have attacked a Damascus neighborhood, killing at least 11 suspected rebels. And footage filmed by Japanese journalist Mika Yamamoto in the hours leading up to her death in Syria has been released. Gunfire can be heard in what is believed to be the last image captured by Yamamoto before she was shot and fatally wounded in Aleppo. Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa has called for talks with the British government on the fate of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Britain has threatened to enter the Ecuadorian embassy in London to seize Assange after Ecuador granted his asylum bid last week. Assange is seeking to avoid extradition to Sweden and ultimately, he says, to the United States. On Tuesday, President Correa maintained Ecuador remains open to dialogue and said a deal could be reached if Sweden assures Assange he won't be sent to a third country.
The Ecuadorian government has never prevented him not to respond to Swedish authorities. What we have only requested is that he is not extradited to a third country. If that assurance is given, I'm sure that Mr. Assange would refuse the asylum and would return to Sweden to collaborate with the investigation in course.
South Africa's defense minister has apologized for the police killing of 34 striking workers at a mine last week. The victims were killed more than a week after walking off the job at the Maracana platinum mine in a call for higher pay. Police say they opened fire after workers tried to attack them with machetes, but the miners have accused the police of committing a massacre. South Africa's Minister of Police initially defended the killings, sparking outrage. In a visit to the mine Tuesday, South African Defense Minister Nosiviwe Mapiso Kakula issued an apology saying, quote, "I beg and I apologize. May you find forgiveness in your hearts." During a tense parliament session Tuesday, the head of the opposition party Congress of the People called for top officials to be held accountable.
Was it the Minister of Police? Was it the commander? Who was this person who is above the Constitution? Who had the authority to decide that this right to life will be suspended today for this moment, and therefore shoot?
The shooting marked the worst mass killing in South Africa since the end of apartheid. South African President Jacob Zuma has announced a week of national mourning as well as the formation of a commission of inquiry. The Obama administration's announced it'll temporarily lift sanctions for U.S.-based groups that want to send financial aid for the earthquake relief effort in Iran. More than 300 people were killed, thousands more wounded when the earthquake struck northwest Iran earlier this month. Iranian-American groups had warned that harsh U.S. sanctions on Iran would greatly hinder international donations for victims. On Tuesday, the Treasury Department issued an order saying it'll allow U.S.-based groups to donate money to Iran until early October. A federal appeals court has upheld Texas's effort to defund Planned Parenthood and exclude it from a government-funded health program for low-income women simply because they also provide abortion. The decision Tuesday reverses a lower court ruling that temporarily blocked the ban. The Texas program offers cancer and health screenings as well as birth control services to some 130,000 low-income women, about 40% of whom are served through Planned Parenthood. In a court filing defending the ban earlier this year, Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott had compared Planned Parenthood to a terrorist organization, writing, quote, "First Amendment does not prohibit application of federal material support statute to individuals who give money to, quote, humanitarian activities performed by terrorist organizations." In a statement, Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards said, quote, "This case has never been about Planned Parenthood. It's about the women who rely on Planned Parenthood for cancer screenings, birth control, and well-woman exams. It's shocking that politics would get in the way of women receiving access to basic health care," she said. The New York Police Department has admitted its elaborate CIA-aided efforts to spy on Muslim neighborhoods over a period of more than 6 years failed to yield a terrorism investigation or even a single lead. The NYPD spy program included efforts to infiltrate Muslim student groups, send informants into mosques, eavesdrop on conversations, and create databases showing where Muslims lived, worked, and prayed. The Associated Press won a Pulitzer Prize for its series revealing how the New York Police Department conducted widespread spying on Muslim Americans throughout the eastern United States without evidence of wrongdoing. The AP now reports court records unsealed Monday show information collected by the NYPD's secret demographics unit did not spark a single investigation. A warning to our TV audience that the following images are graphic. The Department of Agriculture has shut down a slaughterhouse in California following the emergence of graphic video showing the flagrant abuse of cows. The animal rights group Compassion Over Killing posted video showing the cows at the Central Valley Meat Company being dragged by one leg on their way to being slaughtered, as well as being electrically prodded and shot in the head. And a new study claims U.S. residents are wasting nearly every other bite of food they consume. According to the Natural Resources Defense Council, Americans are wasting up to 40% of the nation's food supply, to the tune of $165 billion per year. Wasted food is said to account for up to a quarter of all fresh water consumed and 23% of emissions of methane gas. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Nermeen Sheikh. Welcome to our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. As the